Hey friend, hit that subscribe button. Takes you a second, but it means the world to me. And drop a comment on the Revenge Veil channel. Let me know what city you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story. They put me out after midnight. Wet flagstone. A cold step. A suitcase handle biting my palm. My father, Victor Sterling, said it very neatly. If you choose him, you don't choose this family. My mother, Helena Sterling, softer but sharper. We won't carry your mistake. The door eased shut like nothing happened. Then the deadbolt clicked. I didn't cry on their porch. I watched the brass handle. Breathed rain and a trace of ocean. Told myself, keep your back straight. This is Savannah, Georgia. I'm Maya Sterling. I grew up behind trimmed hedges and rules cut from money. At dinner, Crystal never kissed China. Every napkin was a square sermon about reputation. When she brushed my hair before another gala, my mother Helena would say, "You are not only you. You are our legacy." I wore that sentence like a fitted coat, until it started to choke. I met him in the university library. His name was Elias Cruz. Not a student. Not a guest. Gray coveralls. Frayed cuffs. Shoes that had outlived their luck. His hands were worked raw. His eyes were hungry without begging. He mopped, then sat on breaks and opened casebooks that outweighed his paycheck. Curiosity tugged me forward. "Do you study here?" I asked. He smiled a little shy. "No. I clean here. The books are free to look at. I read when I can." That was the hinge. We traded bad coffee and small truths. We talked about fairness without marble words. I laughed like I wasn't being graded. That was my offense. When my parents found out, the study became a stage. Dark wood, heavy drapes, a lamp making a bright circle like a target. My father Victor's fist touched mahogany. "You'd throw away everything for a janitor?" My mother Helena's voice was polished steel. "Marry him and count yourself out." My palms were wet. My feet were steady. "I love him," I said. The rest took under an hour. A housekeeper parked my suitcase by the door without meeting my eyes. My father said loudly for the hall, "From this moment, you are not part of this family." My mother added the soft knife. "One day you'll crawl back. The door will remember how to lock." I didn't crawl. I walked down the wet drive, found the cheapest cab and kept breathing. We rented a room with a ceiling that complained about rain. Mold on the window frame. Leaks in a stubborn rhythm. One mattress. One thin blanket. Sometimes not enough food to split cleanly in half. I grabbed any shift. Dawn counters, greasy dish pits, night floors. Degreaser stung my eyes. Coins made a harsh little music. Elias stacked jobs 2-3 sometimes, then studied law in the hours nobody wants. He fell asleep upright. Highlighter still uncapped. I read his notes out loud until the words stopped tasting like metal. Winter turned our kitchen air to smoke you could see. The heater died. We wore every sweater we owned and ate a single loaf like it was policy. I didn't cry for hunger. I cried for the neatness with which I'd been thrown away. Elias never wavered. He would take my hands and say, "One day this changes. Trust me." And then inch by inch it did. Certificate. Exam. A first case that tugged stolen wages out of fees. In a stale room, a judge said, "Mr. Cruz, clear and persuasive." I carried that sentence home like heat in a coat. I believed in him the way you believe in a sunrise the night before. But back then we were still counting coins and using pliers on a leaky faucet. I kept a small ritual. On late walks home, I paused at a thrift store window full of pressed children's dresses. I remembered Helena smoothing fabric more carefully than feelings. And I told the girl in the glass, "You are not anyone's display. You're a person." Years stack, even when you're not ready. Silence hardens. Pride cracks where the weather gets in. And one day, a gate that never opened for anyone without the right surname would swing toward the street. That's later. Tonight is a wet step, a suitcase, and a name I am no longer wearing for someone else. The deadbolt has already done its job. So will I. Morning smelled like burnt coffee and bleach. We timed our lives to alarms and bus schedules. Elias said, "I'll take the unload at 4. I said, "I'll close at midnight." We passed each other a sandwich, a receipt, a look that said keep going. The library kept him. On breaks he leaned on a rolling cart and read. "Read this paragraph," he'd say. I'd speak the lines that used to taste like metal. Burden of proof. Chain of custody. Pretext. He'd nod without opening his eyes, like the words were building a map he already knew. Exam months were a tunnel. He slept upright with a book on his chest. I set timers. Flashcards smudged my fingers black-blue. Test day tasted like a coin. He left in a clean shirt and loyal shoes. He came back hours later, placed his forehead to mine, and breathed like a lock releasing. "I passed," he said. We laughed into a pan of cheap pasta until the neighbor banged on the wall. It sounded like applause from the wrong apartment. The first job paid small and mattered more. A man with administrative fees chewing holes in his paycheck. "Show me your stubs," Elias said. We stapled copies in a straight spine. In court, his voice was rain-driving steady. "Clerical error?" Opposing counsel smiled. "Theft," Elias said. The order landed where it should. We walked home like nothing happened and slept like everything had. Cases learned our address. A clerk whispered a name. A neighbor pushed a letter through our slot that smelled like toner and trouble. I labeled folders until my wrists understood evidence by weight. "You're good at the chain," Elias said. "I like when paper tells the truth," I said. We married on a weekday at a window that needed cleaning. 2 signatures. "No quartet," he said. "We'll buy a lamp that turns on the first click." We did. And chairs that didn't bite the backs of our knees. Second hand. Ours anyway. Year 10 wrote our name on glass. Cruz and Hart in small honest letters. Mason Hart, calm and furious at bullies, joined the fight. Our rule was simple. Carry only what you can carry clean. We said no to clients who wanted a weapon. Yes to people who brought shoe boxes of receipts and shame. I kept a ledger again, not for parties, for wounds. Name. Date. Who did it. What they said while doing it. The book grew heavy in a good way. Home changed last. A porch that faced morning. Floors with a soft old honesty. No brass meant to impress. No drapes that scold. Lemons in a bowl because the kitchen wanted light. Some nights the old hallway tried to visit. Heavy curtains, lamp circle, my mother's blank approval. I poured water, let the ghosts dissolve to ordinary air, and went back to bed. The first big case arrived at 12:17 a.m. A woman in a winter coat sat at our table and asked if we believed her. "We prefer documents," Elias said, kind. "Start at the beginning. Small words." Her story shook, then straightened. In court, Theodore wore a perfect navy suit and said misunderstanding like a password. Facts didn't blink. A paper trail saying one note over and over wrong. Reporters called it luck. It wasn't luck. It was years of mops and flashcards and a wife who learned to love binders. My mother Helena didn't call. My father Victor didn't write. Silence sat in a corner like a coat nobody wanted to claim. Some nights it tried to climb into bed with us. I kept a glass of water by the lamp and drank it back to the floor. When we could, we drove to the water. Fries in a paper boat. A pelican judging our dinner. "What do you want that costs less than $20? Elias asked. 2 more hours like this, I said. Year 18 turned a page. Our receptionist buzzed my office. 2 visitors at the gate. The screen showed faces the years had thinned. Victor Sterling's jaw set like an old rule. Helena's eyes counting rooms that weren't hers. "Neutral ground," Elias said. I nodded. "Tomorrow 11 Palmetto Cafe. 30 minutes. No surprises," I told the intercom. The bell over the cafe door was too cheerful. Helena smoothed her coat like it might argue back. Victor folded a napkin smaller, then smaller again. "We've missed you," Helena said. "You closed a door," I said. "We did what was required," Victor said. "By what?" I asked. "They asked to meet my husband." "He's at work," I said. "What does he do exactly?" Helena asked, warm and hunting at once. "He's a lawyer," I said. A flicker went through both faces like a bad bulb. There was a pause, the kind that tries to look like grace. Then the real reason walked out from behind the flowers. "We could use counsel," Victor said. I looked toward the back. Elias lifted his eyes from a magazine. I gave him a yes with my eyebrows. He stood, paid, walked over calm as a corridor. "Good morning," he said. And just like that, the past found where our name lived now. Palmetto Cafe smelled like steam and sugar. Helena arranged her face into neutral. Victor folded a napkin smaller, then smaller. Say what you came to ask, I said. They tried the washed version first. Regulators, rivals, unfair weather. I waited. The starch fell out. Handshake deals. Promises on air. Lawsuits braided into a rope. I shelved facts in my head. Looked to the back. Elias lifted his eyes. I gave a small yes. He walked over calm as a courthouse hallway. Good morning, Elias said. Helena shook his hand like she was meeting a verdict. Victor measured the suit, the voice, the way quiet didn't ask permission. You practice law, Victor said. I do, Elias said. Corporate. Helena tried. Accountability, he said. He sat. Not touching them. Not touching me. Elbows on his knees. Attention like a clean plate. Who signed? When? Where's the copy? Elias said. 3 questions. No decoration. Victor's verb softened. Helena's eyes drifted to the window where her reflection still obeyed. If you want advice, I said, book a consult. Bring documents. Pay the fee. Accept limits. Of course, Helena said, meaning back door. There isn't one, I said. Tomorrow, Elias said. Noon. Our lobby. Cruz and Hart, I added. We'll run conflicts before a word of strategy. They nodded like people in church who aren't listening. The next day the elevator sighed and delivered them to our glass. Cruz and Hart wrote itself across the floor in sunlight. They stopped when they read it. A portfolio between them like a raft. Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. Mrs. Sterling, Elias said. Conference A, I said. Paper and a faint trace of coffee. No trophies. No gold. We record for accuracy, Elias said. You can request the file. Brief, Victor said. I took a side chair under the slow vent. Legal pad. Uncapped pen. Plain terms first, Elias said. Then documents. Helena unzipped the leather. For folders. Pleasant company names with sharp edges. We'll run conflicts, Elias said. He stepped out. Printer coughed. Keyboard whispered. Silence sat down. You look well, Helena said. I am, I said. You've done something, Victor said to the room. He didn't say proud. Elias returned with a single page. He read once. Looked up. We have a conflict, he said. With whom? Helena said. Entities tied to these matters, Elias said, touching the top folder. Explain, Victor said, jaw square. We represented clients harmed by practices linked here, Elias said. Represented, Helena said. Past tense. Some closed. Some pending, he said. Victor's gaze went to the glass again, to our name, to the floor that held it without blinking. So it was you, he said to the room. It was evidence, I said. It was the law, Elias said. Even for family? Victor tried. Especially then, Elias said. Helena reached for a softer door. Can you at least suggest a firm? Elias printed 3 names on a blank card. Slow legible. Dry ground. He slid it across. Victor didn't touch it. What if we want to understand how this happened? Victor said. Bring contracts, emails, your compliance manuals, Elias said. We can explain process in general terms. We cannot advise against prior clients. Helena nodded like a student who hadn't read the chapter. Timeline, I said, opening my pad. So you're ready for outside counsel. We built a clean spine from their softened answers. Dates. Service. Responses. Orders. I asked for copies and handed back originals. Nothing commingled. Nothing casual. The last page made a small noise in the throat. Comply, Elias said. Appeal only if there's a narrow lane. We have always fought, Victor said. Fight where there is ground, Elias said. Helena tried one more key. Maya perhaps alone? We're finished, I said. Elias opened the door. Hallway light drew a line across the table. They didn't step over it. The elevator closed with its patient sigh. The lobby exhaled. Dana reset the candy dish. We went back to work. That evening a white ribbon hung from our gate latch. Clean knot. Cheap satin. I untied it and dropped it in a jar of spare screws and keys that fit nothing. Paper beats theater. Locks beat nostalgia. Tomorrow would test both. Monday, a man in a pale suit left an envelope at our lobby. Smile that didn't use his eyes. Time sensitive, he told Dana. Inside. A grievance to the state bar. Anonymous. Conflict behaviors. Breach of norms. The ink smelled like toner in a cologne I grew up around. My stomach cooled, neat little circles of ice. Elias read standing up, then sitting down. This is theater, he said. Theater still gets a seat. We moved like we do when the floor tilts. Engagement letters. Conflict screens. Notices. Orders with our names where they belong. Docket numbers that don't care about gossip. Mason brought coffee and a look that knows storms. They're trying to win by rumor, he said. Then we answer with record, Elias said. We built a square that wouldn't tip. Tabs. Clips. Dates. The office smelled like warm toner and a trace of iron from paper cuts. That afternoon, a thicker envelope. Typed character statement, for me to sign. It praised Victor's integrity of decades, Helena's unbending ethics, then blamed staff errors for everything measurable. A sticky note in my mother's hand. Use your voice for us. I wrote back clean. No statements. Do not use my name. Certified mail. Because clean things leave tracks. My Aunt Lila called with weather in her voice. Your mother is crumbling, she said. She wants a shortcut, I said. They say your husband targeted them. He targeted bad paper, I said. She hung up in stages. The bar emailed. Wednesday, 2 p.m. Brief interview. Bring nothing but your calendar. We went. 1 clock. 1 window. 2 chairs. Counsel asked 3 questions that fit on a postcard. Engagement letter? Executed by both sides, Elias said. Conflicts. Screened and logged. Prior clients notified where required. Public statements? None, I said. We don't litigate on microphones. A long flat look. This will be brief, she said. 10 minutes later we stood in noon heat. Live oaks holding their shade like a promise. They knew before we arrived, Elias said. I let the sentence loose in my ribs. Back at the office the email came quiet. Preliminary review complete. No further action at this time. No adjectives. The best kind of victory. The phone rang with a banker's voice in polished shoes. Inquiry about a legacy account under your former household, he said. He didn't say Victor. Didn't need to. Note no releases based on my former name or address, I said. He read it back twice, then used my married name like it mattered. I liked that. A reporter tried for off the record. We don't do off the record, I said. He asked anyway. I handed him a docket number and ended the call. Thanks, Elias said from the doorway. For not feeding the machine. At dusk the gate camera blinked. A car idled at the curb. Victor in the passenger seat, jaw set against daylight. Helena on the wheel like posture could open iron. They didn't buzz. They waited, as if a gate forgets who it belongs to. I watered the rosemary until the soil went dark. Dropped the white ribbon we'd found earlier into a jar with spare screws and keys to nothing. Control always liked to dress pretty. Sunday brought visitors dressed as virtue. 2 family friends. Pastor with a Bible like a pass. A bouquet that matched the ribbon. The speaker cracked. Maya, darling, Helena said, searching for the old hallway. We're here in good faith, Victor said, performance level even. What's your purpose? I asked. We want peace, Helena said. You want absolution, I said. We'd like to meet your husband. Properly, Victor said. I'm here, Elias said, steady behind me. Let us in, Helena said. No, I said. Forgiveness is a door we open together. The pastor tried. Boundaries are locks we turn ourselves, I said. Victor reached for the rare word he saves for flames. Please. I set my palm on the wood and didn't turn the bolt. This house isn't a stage, I said. If you want counsel, schedule like any client. If you want mercy, stop sending smears and ribbons. If you want me, say my name without attaching a task. Silence. A pedal fell and kissed the concrete. Engines. Curb empty. Inside, we ate something simple in a pan that sings in the right key. No toasts. We washed the day until it ran clear. The bar's final email would come later. For now there was only our porch, our air, and a door that remembered who it worked for. The bar's email arrived like a clock striking. Subject plain. Body plainer. Final review complete. No further action. No adjectives. The kind of victory that doesn't need flowers. I read it twice. Didn't print. Closed the tab like a drawer. The phone found me next with a banker's voice and polished shoes. An inquiry about a legacy account linked to your former household, he said. He didn't say Victor. He didn't have to. Please note, I said. No releases based on my former name or address. He read the instruction back. Used my married name carefully like a promise kept. I liked that. Reporters tried their mirrors. Off the record? One asked. We don't do off the record, I said. He paddled toward gossip anyway. I handed him a docket number and let the silence end the call. Elias stood in my doorway with a file and a smile too tired to be smug. Thank you, he said, for not feeding a machine. A thicker envelope slid under our door at lunch. Regulatory order. Consent decree. Fines printed in quiet numbers. Practices to cease by dates already circled in someone else's office. I didn't highlight. Fairness sometimes arrives in Times New Roman, and that's enough. My Aunt Lila called with weather in her tone. Your mother is hurting, she said. She's used to keys that fit any door, I said. They say Elias targeted them. He targeted bad paper, I said. My aunt exhaled like a dress that doesn't fit anymore. Sunday, she asked. No, I said. The line went to dishes and then to nothing. Late afternoon. A courier with another envelope. Inside a photograph. I'm 12, ribboned and obedient in a dress that wanted a different girl. On the back, Helena wrote 3 words. Come home Sunday. I slid the photo into a folder labeled Sterling closed. Folders are doors too. We drove to the water because the ocean keeps its own counsel. Fries in a paper boat. Salt on our fingers. A pelican tilted its head and refused to be impressed. What do you want that's under $20? Elias asked. 2 hours of this, I said. Paid in advance, he said, and handed me his soda. Back home, small order. Real order. 2 lemons had gone soft. I replaced them. The rosemary had listed after last week's wind. The white ribbon held the branch to a stake, soft enough not to cut, firm enough to help. Will it hold? Elias asked from the steps. It holds where it should, I said. Dana, at the office, reset the candy dish like a votive for sane days. Mason dropped a file and said. Opposing counsel blinked. Facts make eyelids heavy, Elias said without looking up. I smiled into my coffee and built a checklist that fit on 1 page. Names. Dates. Copies back to owners. Originals home safe. The neighbor, Mrs. Paxton, trapped me by the bread aisle the next morning. People said it looked harsh, she whispered. They saw a boundary doing its job, I said. She rolled the word boundary in her mouth like a new pill. Strong taste, she said. Effective dose, I said. We parted friends enough. That afternoon another letter came. Neat loops I knew from childhood. Helena wrote about hope. Moving forward. Sunday. No apology. No fresh harm. I filed it behind the photograph. Paper can be heavy without being large. At dusk the gate camera blinked once. No car. No faces. Just a moth knocking at its own reflection. I muted the audio, set the remote down beside the lemon bowl, and boiled water for tea. Elias sautéed something simple in a pan that sings in the right key. No toasts. We washed the day until it ran clear. Later, in the hallway that remembers our footsteps and only ours, I stopped at the entry. Touched the lock. Not ornate. Not myth. Just metal that turns because we say so and pay so and live by what that implies. Elias called from the living room. Pencil tucked behind his ear. Tomorrow we finish the Johnson subpoenas. Tomorrow, I said. Behind the door the street did what streets do. Somewhere, a ribbon the color of control waited to be tied to something that bends. In here, the rosemary stood a little taller. The lemons looked like small suns. The email about no further action slept in its folder like a closed eye. And we slept like people who know what doors are for. Monday arrived dressed like peace and tried to sell me a contract. Two family friends walked into our lobby wearing sympathy like a uniform. Mrs. Dalrymple's voice was linen. Mr. Dalrymple's smile was escrow. Appointment? Dana asked. They didn't have one. The Glassett Cruise and Hart either way. I met them in Conference B with the good chairs. State your purpose, I said. We come as peacemakers, Mrs. Dalrymple said. We can mediate, Mr. Dalrymple said. Between whom? I asked. Between you and your parents, she said, choosing a gentle verb like it could dilute history. If they want counsel, we sent referrals, I said. If they want absolution, that's not a legal service. Silence rearranged its weight on the table. They've always loved you. He tried, reaching for a key called heritage. I prefer present tense, I said. 15 minutes. No back doors discovered. They left carrying phrases that wilt quickly outside. Dana exhaled when the elevator side shut. Candy? She asked, tapping the dish. 2, I said. For the file and for the blood sugar. Emails kept their lanes. Mason parked a box of Discovery on my credenza. Opposing counsel blinked again. He said. Facts make eyelids heavy, Elias said from his doorway, pencil behind his ear, shirt sleeves at the honest angle. At lunch I walked to the market. Bread. Lemons. A small plant I didn't need and bought anyway. By the bakery, Mrs. Paxton appeared like a cautionary tale in pearls. People say it looked harsh, she whispered. They watched a boundary doing its job, I said. She rolled the word boundary around like new medicine. Strong taste, she decided. Effective dose, I said, and we parted still neighbors. Afternoon heat made the street hum. Back in my office, I reread the bar's one-line closure. Closed. A period. The best punctuation. At dusk, the gate camera blinked once. No faces. No car. Just a moth throwing itself at its reflection like it could argue with physics. I muted the audio and set the remote beside the lemon bowl. We ate late. Skillet garlic, a salad that didn't need to make a speech. No toasts. We rinse. We stack. Small order. Real order. Later, the phone found the space between quiet and sleep. Aunt Lila again, voice like winter air under a door. Your mother is hurting, she said. She's used to keys that fit anywhere, I said. She says she can change, Lila tried. She can start with not tying ribbons to other people's gates, I said. A pause. You were always stubborn, she said, almost fond. I learned from champions, I said, and we said goodnight without a plan. I walked the house once. Not to check locks. To thank the rooms for belonging to us. The floors kept their soft, honest sound. The porch rail, fresh white, held evening like water in a bowl. The rosemary had lifted some. The white ribbon I tied kept the bent branch true without cutting it. Elias watched me from the steps, sock feet, day still in his shoulders. Will it hold? He asked. It holds where it should, I said. Inside, I filed 2 letters behind the photograph of the girl in a dress that wanted a different child. Tab Sterling closed. Folders are doors too. In bed, I listened for the bell that used to ring behind my ribs. Chimed once like a reflex. Then quiet. Real quiet. The kind that isn't afraid of knocks. Before sleep, Elias spoke into the dark, gentle as a hand on a door frame. Tomorrow I'll finish the Johnson subpoenas, he said. Tomorrow, I said. Savannah breathed its night sounds. Somewhere, someone rehearsed a speech for a porch they don't own. Here the lamp obeyed the first click. The house kept our names the way a chair keeps its shape. We slept like people who know what a door is for. Weeks went by in ordinary light. Files. Coffee. A plant that forgave our schedule. Dana lined the candy dish like a small vote for sanity. Mason said. Opposing counsel blinked. And didn't smile about it. Elias said. Facts make eyelids heavy. Pencil behind his ear, sleeves honest. We painted the last stretch of porch rail. A kid on a bike stopped and stared. Nice house, he said. Thank you, I said. My mom says rich people have big curtains. We like light, I said. He nodded like a new rule had just been drafted and rode away. The bar's final notice came. 1 line colder than victory. Closed. I forwarded it to no one. The only person who needed to know was at the next desk labeling boxes with a pen that never clicks. I leaned on the door frame. Johnson subpoenas finished today? Elias asked without looking up. We do, I said. He looked then, read my face like a transcript and nodded once. That was the party. Elsewhere, strategy changed in houses with brass. Aunt Lila texted. They're quieter. I sent back a lemon emoji and let the conversation end where it belonged. At the market, Mrs. Paxton tilted her head. Your mother, she looked pale at service, she said. Pale is a color, not a plan, I said. Mrs. Paxton pressed her lips together, then touched my arm once, human and quick. We were still neighbors. One Thursday I saw them through a restaurant window I hadn't meant to pass. Victor walked like the pavement owed him explanation. Helena wore a ribbon the shade of surrender, if surrender has a shade. They didn't see me. I kept walking. Not for drama. For life. Home kept its quiet rituals. 2 lemons softened. I replaced them. The rosemary's bent stem lifted. The white ribbon faded to the soft color good fabric finds in sun. I untied it, checked the fibers, retied it looser. Will it hold? Elias asked from the steps. It holds where it should, I said. A voicemail landed that night, neat and cautious. Helena's voice. We are reconsidering strategy. She meant counsel, not love. She said my name once as if that paid down a balance. I didn't call back. Sunday arrived with bells far enough away to count as weather. Bread. Pan that sings in the right key. No toasts. We wash, we stack. Small order. Real order. After dishes, I stood at the entry and touched the lock. Not ornate. Not myth. Just metal that turns because we say so and pay so and live by what that implies. Thank you, I said into the quiet. Thank who? Elias called from the living room, smiling at some small justice in a file. The door, I said. He laughed the quiet kind and went back to work that keeps other doors honest. If there's a moral, it fits on the head of a key. Family is who does not throw you into rain to keep their shoes dry. Love is the person who stands where you can see them while you tell ghosts to go. Justice is a folder labeled and filed, not a parade. And doors are tools. That night I slept without the old bell ringing behind my ribs. Morning came like morning always does, without permission and without malice. We drank coffee. We worked. We walked. We came home. The gate recognized us. The lock turned for us. The door did its work first, last, always. It stayed closed. Enjoyed the story? Tap like, it really helps. And don't miss out, new stories drop here every day.